about guys
like
that
the
do
deep
like that's not very good, is it?
Sometimes it is.
Political stuff?
I like all comedy. You probably do too, Norm,
Huh?
You probably like it all too.
I don't like political comment.
You don't?
No. Like, I don't give a fuck if Reagan's old. Are they still doing it with Reagan jokes?
Probably. They probably are. Yeah, you gotta have you get like an old socialist audience and old Jewish guys with ponytails when you do material like that.
You understand after a while, and even with politicians, like, they're still human beings. And,
yeah, barely. But yeah, they're the worst kind of fucking people in the world.
That's true.
All of them.
I agree. I'm glad to hear you say that because everybody thinks you're all leftist and everything.
Well, I mean, I definitely land on the lefty side of things on, ideological terms, but I found that from doing political talk radio, just, being, carrying water for any of them, you just got to realize the quality of people you're dealing with. You're dealing with fucking corporate whores who are operated by business interests. So, really it's going to come down to, however you view politics, the question is, do you give a shit about poor people? And,
right.
And are we being taken advantage of?
Right.
Now, if people want to frame that as, Obama's a communist and draining us of our livelihood, well, that's your particular delusion, and that's fine. I mean,
right.
but I just got disillusioned with all of it because these are not quality people. I mean, I did a joke about Michelle Bachmann on Real Time.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I was getting flack from this, a very small portion of the right, that they were like, he's a misogynist. I'm like, she's a fucking pig. She's a fucking politician. Can you name me two politicians that command any respect whatsoever? Why do we respect these people? These people are car salesmen. They're idiots. They're more disingenuous than anybody as performers, and they basically figured out a way to bait and placate morons into voting against their self-interest. That's an amazing skill, but is it respectable? I don't know. Do you respect a guy that sells you horse shit in the guise of a health supplement?
I agree with you. I mean, I think politicians are terrible. People attack evangelists, but at least evangelists offer something.
Right. Well, they after the immediate relief of someone's pain and aggravation with another line of bullshit. But nonetheless, I mean, they're pretty evil too.
Well,
I mean, with politics, it's like. Yeah, I don't like to get into it that much anymore.
Yeah, let's not get into this shit, man.
Okay, buddy.
Because it's getting. I can see people not laughing now.
No, I mean, but laughter. But I know that you've gotten into a little bit of flack around it. But you're
flack around what?
Around politics.
What do you mean?
Well, just say you've said things that people have reacted to, but you're not like a political comic.
I'm not political. I've only said things on purpose to provoke people.
Right.
Once in a while.
You like doing that though.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
But I've never. But I've never. Because I don't know enough. And because I don't respect political humor when it's nothing but gossip.
Yeah, and mostly comics and people like us, people who are obviously First Amendment warriors to a certain degree. We like living the way we want to live. So it's really just going to come down to money. It's like, how do I keep my money? I mean, that's the biggest political question that most righties ask themselves. It's like, I'd like to keep as much of my money as possible. And if that's in a minority opinion, how do we get this majority of poor people to get me to keep my money and believe that they're doing the right thing?
Yeah, it's a tough fucking thing because apparently I read this, if all the money in the world was equally divided among everybody would be dead fucking poor.
Yeah. There's these moments where I don't talk about as much as I used to, but then there's moments where you're like, there's a moment that I was on a fucking radio show the other day. And this was an interesting thing because it's about professionalism. I don't do political talk radio. I've got my political views and they're fairly general. I'm not trying to support, any politician, but, I have the way I think about things. But there are politicians that represent the opposite of what I think. So I'm on this talk show with a guy, it's a Fox affiliate, but, I'm there to plug my comedy and talk about my podcast and be funny with this dude who's a talk show host. He's a radio professional. He runs an entertainment show for the most part, but he's been dying to talk to Rand Paul about the bridge situation because I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. He's the fucking senator.
Right.
They got bridges falling down, and he's been trying to get this guy on the show. And the guy he calls in when I'm there. You know, so like now I've got, like, if I was doing political talk radio, I mean, it would have been like, you know, what the fuck are you thinking? You know, you and your libertarian bullshit, and how are we going to pay for this? Like, I would have jumped in and done that. But there was this moment where it's like, I'd just done a segment with this radio professional. He was like, God, it's great to talk to a guy who knows how to be on radio. We're having a good time. Hold on, the senator's on the phone. And I got to sit there and go, oh, do I do this? Dude, yeah, would it be worth it to sabotage this for some lefty, credibility? Yeah, and then I realized, like, dude, you know, he's a radio guy. You're a comedian. You're having a good conversation. He's trying to talk to this guy about a local problem. Just shut the fuck up and let him do his job. And then when you come back, you know, get back to what you were talking about. And I chose to do that. But I did walk out saying, like, you pussy. Right the fuck you had such an opportunity there.
You know, I was on Politically Incorrect a couple of times.
Yeah.
And, fuck, man, you know, you have to have an opinion about every goddamn thing on that show. So,
or you can just do a little homework and write some jokes.
Yeah, but sometimes I remember at the break, like Scott Carter go, enough with the jokes.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget it. Like, I'm very unlearned, and so before the show, Scott came in, who was the
producer. Yeah, he's been on the show. Yeah.
So he said, "What do you think about China and Taiwan?" And seriously, I only know those as words, you know. So I was like, I don't know anything. Like, can't I have another subject? So, anyways, then we get out because he goes, because Bill believes this. I mean, anyways, when we get out, we're introducing the guy beside me, the smart guy, right? Mm-hmm. He wrote a book on China and Taiwan.
Right.
So fucking Bill Maher, he starts with me. He goes like, what was it, China and Taiwan? I go, I don't know. Fucking ask this guy. What do I know? I'm a nightclub comic. What? Like, that's what made me laugh with that show. Everyone's opinion's equal.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like a nightclub comic and an expert. And then another thing I always found funny about that show is the comedians try to be very serious, and then the serious guys are trying to get jokes.
Yeah.
So it's like...
it's not always our shining moment.
I do like Bill, though.
No, Bill's great at what he does.
Yeah.
Like, he started out a straight up joke dude, and he knows his shit. And it's pretty amazing.
You know what's funny about him? I don't know if I should say this or not, but I mean, he's probably aware of it. When he does his monologue, have you noticed when he does his monologue, he does Johnny Carson?
No, yeah, no, definitely. He definitely models himself. I think that's been his style for a long time. He definitely takes the posture.
But I find it very funny because, you know, he's got the posture and the timing and everything, and he's like, and then she came in his face, you know, but it's like crazy words come out.
Carson would have loved to have done that.
Yeah, he probably would have.
Met Donald Trump when he was on The Tonight Show on Jimmy Fallon's show. Now, tell us about that encounter you had with Donald Trump.
Well, I'd met Donald Trump many, many times in New York City, just because when I was doing Saturday Night Live, he was a fixture in New York City, and he'd come to a lot of the shows, and he was just a local eccentric, you know, that people mostly loved in New York because he fixed the rink in Central Park when the city couldn't. But no, when I was on Jimmy Fallon, that's when Jimmy Fallon tousled his hair and got in trouble for it, and I was the other guest. So I was just out in the hallway, and I said, Donald, can I have a picture? You could call him Donald then. I guess you can still call him Donald. We don't have to call him President, apparently. But I said, could I get a picture with you? And he said, yeah, absolutely, sure, Norm. And then he walked down the hall and got in the elevator with the Secret Service guys. So, but he was just doing it as a joke. A lot of times, the problem with candidates that, or political candidates that do comedy is obviously comedy doesn't translate well to the page sometimes, you know. Sarcasm is lost, obviously, and things like that. So if someone says something that's meant self-disparagingly or satirically, and you want to take it out of context, you can. And that happened a lot of times with Trump on the campaign trail.
But, you know, he's being caricatured on Saturday Night Live, like, quite mercilessly by Alec Baldwin. Like, is it funny to you? Is that funny?
No. The only reason I don't find it funny, when I was there, Darrell Hammond did Donald Trump, and that shows how far back Trump goes, because that was 20 years ago. But Darryl did him then, it was a softer Trump. You know, I think it was a Trump that was a lot closer to his real self. But if you do, the problem with if you do an impression of someone, you have to like that person, you know, because you're playing the person, and people like themselves. So you can't play someone and have contempt for them at the same time. You know, it doesn't work as an impression. So I don't like his impression, and I have no political affiliation. I just mean from a comedy level.
Let me ask you this. So your Bob Dole imitation was pretty famous back in the day. So would you do Donald Trump today? Would you do a Donald Trump imitation?
I try to not do comedy about Donald Trump because I think I had one joke about Donald Trump that I ever did where I said that Americans hated Hillary Clinton so much that they voted for someone they hated more than Hillary Clinton to rub it in. And that's the only time I ever made a joke about Trump. But I try to stay away from it because it's just, you know, it's low-hanging fruit, and also, you know, Trump oftentimes is doing self-parody, and nothing looks dumber than if you parody self-parody. You know, you really get caught not understanding.
So comedy in the time of Trump, is it more difficult than it was when you were on Saturday Night Live?
It's more difficult in the time of Trump for good comedians, and it's way easier for bad comedians. You know, you don't have a worldview by just saying you don't like Trump. You know what I mean? That doesn't count. Like you can't just say I hate Trump, and that makes you a good person. And the Democrats just can't say I hate Trump, and that means they have a position. You know, that's no position. So for idiots, it's an easier time because you go, well, that guy's the idiot, not me. But if you try to do smart comedy, it's better to stay away from Trump. You know. Big thing was he forced him to do this. The big problem that Clinton has is this thing where he's going to pardon the McDougalls.
He may or may not pardon him. Yeah, people don't know. The Whitewater people, we call them here at the show.
Hillary, if she is, because she is also a co-conspirator.
Yeah, if she gets sent away.
If she gets sent away, will he pardon her? And Clinton said, "You do the time, you do the crime, you do the time," he said.
That was so sweet. You know, you moved into three-point range and up and at the last second fouled. All right.
I don't know about politics.